We use boning to add support in a strapless top. You might use it in soft toys or even round the top edge of a bag to keep it open. And the little end caps are put on the end so that the end of the boning doesn't work its way through the fabric or indeed start digging into you. And if you notice, there's a little hole in the end cap there, so when it's in place I can stitch through to hold it in place so that it doesn't come off during wear and tear. So I've prepared the lining of my bodice front. This is a self-lined bodice. Firstly, I've stitched the seams with a nice wide seam allowance, pressed the seam to one side and stitched it again, effectively creating a channel through which I can feed the boning. Then I want to make sure that the curve of the boning is going to go curving over the bust, and I'm feeding it between the layers of my little channel. I've used contrast thread here so you can see the other row of stitching. There's the seam. This row holds the seam allowance in place, creating the channel. Pop it up all the way through so that it comes out of the end. Now I'm going to add the end cap, just slip it on and stitch that in place before putting the boning back inside the casing. Just go over that, through that little hole, through the boning. I'll just do that a couple of times, and that will keep it nice and secure and inside. Just lock off the stitch. So now that can be fed back in, and I'm going to push it down so that it's within the seam allowance, so that when I add facings to the top it won't be stitched in. So I'm just going to get it just in the right place, and again I'm going to put a pin across to keep it there. So that's ready for me to add the facing at the top. The boning stops just here. Do exactly the same on the other end, but this time of course I need to make sure that the boning is the right length, so I'm going to cut the boning back so it stops at about here. So I'm going to pull this back, cut it off, make sure I've cut it to the length I need. That's about right. So poke it out again, put my end cap on and sew it in place. Just hold it and prevent it from digging into me, or in fact coming through the end of the fabric. Stitch it a few times. And just lock off the stitching. And now that can disappear back inside my casing. There it is, ready for me to finish the garment with the boning in place to add support and strength, particularly useful if you've got a strapless top. Boning adds support and structure to garments, but you can also use it around the top of bags to keep them nicely open.